Come on.
Greetings, family. Greetings, and welcome to the Clarity Code.
Peace.
Peace. How you like that entrance there, man?
I was jamming back here. I said, "Oh shit!" yeah, that intro's hard. Oh, big
Oh
up to
man,
you, brother.
I love it. Yes, of
Mhm.
course, man. I am super stoked, man. There's so much energy happening in the area, man. Oh man, I went for a run this morning. It was amazing, bro. I saw like about 8 deers running by. It's
Ooh.
one of the reasons why I love to go out running early. It's just beautiful,
Yeah,
man.
you said you're on the 4 or 5 o'clock tip, right?
Yep.
Mm.
Up at 4, and I try to be out the door before 5. It's all about the mental. It's to continue creating what I already know that's there, right? I think of Michelangelo, right? When they said, "Oh, how did you create David?" He said, "I just chipped away the
Right,
other pieces.
right.
It was already in there."
It was already there. Right. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm doing, brother. That's what I'm
Yeah.
doing. That's what we're all about here in the Clarity Code. We just want to get clear on some things. The message that we're bringing is trying our best to bring clarity to many different subjects, and trying to bring the science. Is that how you say it?
Right. Bring the mystical back into the scientific.
Love it. So yeah, I've been checking out the feed, the Instagram. You just can't help it because it's just all over the place. And one of the main topics that are coming out now is this incredible discovery that has come up in the Great Pyramids in Kemet. That is the
Right.
respectful name of it, of course.
Right.
Modern day Egypt. But this incredible thing that they have found down there seems to be a little bit controversy and stuff, but yeah, tell me what you've been seeing and what's going on, man.
Got you, man. Well, first off, I also want to shout out that we are on the Wake Up Radio, so folks can always check us out at onthewakeupradio.com, as well as on YouTube on Omziel Healing Sanctuary. And I want to give a big shout out to super producer Cindy Ashby, as always.
As always.
Yeah. And again, this is brother Cam and brother Omar on the Clarity Code. And bro, yeah, this Egypt thing. So this Kemet, let's like you said, put it in its proper context. Kemet, right? And so I'm just gonna go to one article, right? Because this is in parametric architecture. This is from March 25th, 2025. So this is just from 2 days ago, just from Tuesday of this week. It's written by Valiamai Tirupatai. Forgive me, Variama, if I jacked up your name. The headline: speculating an entire city buried under the Great Pyramids of Giza. I just want the audience just to marinate on that for a minute, because we hear so many things in 2025, so many fantastic things, and the idea that there could be a city buried beneath the pyramids. All right. Now, I believe you and I were talking the other day, and you said it so eloquently. This is something that we've known. This is something that we've been known. The ancestors been telling us that there are other things. And so it's like science is coming, quote unquote, science is coming full circle with what we've been told. And for me, I think this happens at the perfect time too, because it kind of, like, the theme of the show, bringing the mystic into the scientific, like it's all coming full circle right now. And really, it's just the speed since we've began the show that things are coming full circle. It's beautiful to me. I'm just gonna read a little bit from this article. A team of Italian and Scottish scientists have unveiled the shocking results of their research about the pyramids of Giza in Egypt, the 4,500-year-old wonder of the world. The team claims that there is a whole city buried under the tall pyramids, roughly tenfold larger than the pyramids themselves, challenging the known history and very purpose of the pyramids. In an experimental research titled the Khafre Project, Corrado Malanga from the University of Pisa and Filippo Biondi from the University of Strathclyde led the project to discover the mysteries behind the second largest and central pyramid on the Giza Plateau, the Khafre Pyramid. With the use of a new cutting-edge synthetic aperture radar technology, the researchers have taken archaeological exploration a step further. The scientists use synthetic aperture radar (SAR) technology in the Khafre project, which allowed them to find the underground structures without excavation and create their 3D images, taking into account the satellite radar data and the tiny vibrations of seismic movements. The team relied on two satellites 420 miles above Earth in outer space, which captured the photographs of the pyramids and sent down electromagnetic signals. The research scientists turned these signals into phonic data from which the team crafted an approximate 3D model and extracted images, breaking the secret of what existed beneath the Great Pyramids of Giza. These images were revealed to the world, which surfaced on the internet and flooded social media pages in no time. Now, let me see. Hold on. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna try to pull something off.
Okay. All right. Pull it off, man. Pull it off. Let's do it.
Pull something off, brother.
That's what we're here for, brother. We're bringing clarity to some of these things, man.
Right.
And this is all going to come together beautifully. You'll see.
Yeah.
Watch. Just hang in there, guys. You're going to see all of this come together and how it relates to us in our everyday lives, man. It's deep. It's really, really deep.
Yeah. Okay. So this thing's not letting me screen record or screen share right now. So I'm just going to keep on going. Okay. So scientists have identified 8 tall vertical structures extending approximately. Now, this is the part to pay attention to, folks. The scientists have identified 8 tall vertical structures extending approximately 2,100 feet deep below grade and over 6,500 feet across under the pyramids, which they assume to be wells or shafts. They claim that a spiral pathway encircles the length of the shafts and connects to 80-meter cube shaped structures. So it's eight shafts coming down and connecting to 2 80-meter cube shaped structures. The team has also found 5 multi-level structures in the center of the pyramid, which were previously unknown to this world. Further, they've revealed now, and when you see these structures, sadly I can't pull it up, they remind me of the Jed structures, and they remind me of something that Tesla might have been messing with. So you can tell that they do deal with energy. That's all I can say. It looked like some kind of structures that have some kind of resonance with energy, whether it's energy distribution or energy absorption, energy movement. I can't say what type of energy. It might be chi energy. It might be actual electrical energy. It might be electromagnetic energy. It might be bioelectric energy. I don't know. But one thing we do know about pyramids is that the actual shape of a pyramid creates negative ions at the top. And this is a solid pyramid, or this is pyramid. You could have just the borders, the outline edges of a pyramid, and it's going to create those negative ions. And those negative ions are beneficial to life, mental clarity. They're great for depression, all kind of things. So when people say that they go to the pyramids and they experience something energetic, they're not just making this thing up. There's something scientific to that. And there's a Ukrainian Russian scientist who's done some work on this. His name isn't coming to me right now, but if y'all just type in your favorite search engine, pyramids, Russian scientists, and all this information will come up and the things that they found. And this is a sidebar, but this is for people to understand better the structures that are being found in the Khafre pyramid right now, okay? Because they found that, for one thing, if crops are put under pyramid structures, then the crops grow more abundantly. If GMO seeds are placed under pyramid structures, then the seeds revert to heirloom seeds. They revert back to their proper genetics. Yeah. Yeah. Imagine what you could do with a human being who's been genetically altered under a pyramid. Hope folks are catching what I'm throwing right now.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's so much. And I'm super excited about this one, man, because it's really been at me like since I was a kid, who hasn't been fascinated by, all of these images and the sarcophagus and all the gold and the intricate artwork and all that. You mentioned Nicholas Tesla, right? They already know that that's what he was doing over here in Egypt. Excuse me, what he was doing here in New Jersey. That was the tower that he built here. He built the tower of wireless. I don't know if you know the story, but he created this tower that was letting off electricity, but with no wires. It was a wireless thing. He even stuck the light bulbs into the ground, and they turned on and everything. And when his financiers showed up, Edison and Westinghouse, and they told him, where's the switch? And he was like, what do you mean the switch? He goes, yeah, the counter, so we could start charging people for this. And he went, no, I plan to give this away for free. It was down the next day. They took it down, bro. There's nothing of it is there, but it was the same exact design from the pyramids, where you have this energy source that's there, and the water aquifer is running down below. They already know this, right? So I've had the opportunity to go to Kemet, and I went there to the pyramids, and I went to the lower chambers down there, and you see that they were claiming that, it wasn't fully completed, for the burial chamber, right? And it was like, nah. And then when you go up to the queens and the king chamber, the queens are smaller. That's probably why they called it that, So, patriarch right there.
Right.
But the king's chamber, there was no glyphs on the walls or anything like that. So it could not have been. They never found a body, a mummy, not even a little bandage wrap or anything like that. So it was not. So really what I want to say is that all of this information that's coming out now, it's a lot of distractions. It's a lot of distractions. Why? Because we already knew these things.
Right.
These things, the glyphs alone will tell you that things were going on here, And then when you think about the Valley of the Kings, right? And they dug into the bedrock, bro, solid rock. I mean, miles and corridors that, were quite, maze-like, where bodies were put and stuff like that. And then they said, well, how could they be cutting into the bedrock so deep in? What light source did they use?
Right.
So they came up with this thing about, they probably used mirrors, where they took the sunlight and they put another mirror, and they went, no, the light will dissipate at some point. They're too far in. It's not
only goes so far.
Right. So they go, well, they didn't use, electricity light bulbs. But why didn't they? Oh, because there's no socket and there's no, these things of what we think of. Like, where's the wires? Right.
Right.
But there was no wires because it was wireless, man.
And this is the thing, because I'm glad you brought that up, because so again, to bring it into the scientific for people, right? Let's say they use torches. There's no evidence of torch soot.
Yeah, no soot on the ceiling, right?
The amount of soot that would exist for them to have used fire in the way that we understand it, to light those tunnels, to light all their underground stuff. You don't see that. So what did they go by? They said, hey, let's wipe this down before we
let's stand it down.
Exactly. Stand it down.
Right, because I've been inside some of the other tombs where there were bodies in sarcophagus and stuff like that. I had the opportunity to go in, and they were like intricately detailed with the, you know, the incantations on the walls. Like,
Wow.
oh, it's just beautiful, bro. Absolutely stunning, you
Wow.
know, but nothing in those other pyramids, bro.
Right.
You see, but
Right.
there is some controversy about this. I also wanted to say that too,
Yeah.
right? And this is coming from, the prominent Egyptologist Dr. Zahi Hawass.
Mm.
He's saying that this is fake news. That there was a lack of peer review evidence. Peer review means you didn't use my scientist to go and take, and we both agree.
Right.
That's what peer review means.
Yeah.
You see?
And go.
Mhm.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine. But what I want to say is that, you know, Dr. Zahi Hawass, I feel that this is just some of the old tricks in the book of trying to continue to hold on to power and to control the environment like he has, like, for decades already. I saw
Right.
him one time. I saw him one time that he had a clothing line with a whole hat, like an Indiana Jones hat. He was selling
Uh,
clothes. You're an
wow.
archaeologist. What are you doing?
Uh, and I just want to, I'll just read this real quick because what is peer review? Well, there's a gentleman back in the day. His name was Robert Maxwell. And Robert Maxwell, this is just from my search engine. I just put peer review Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell, a key figure in the scientific publishing industry, transformed the business through aggressive tactics and innovative strategies. He recognized the potential of scientific publishing as a market with almost ceaseless demand and free labor, as described by Mark W. Neff in the academic journal Issues in Science and Technology. Maxwell's approach to peer review involved leveraging the unpaid work of scientists. Scientists submit their work for free, undergo a peer review process where other scientists also volunteer their time, and then the publishers sell the product back to government-funded institutions. This model allows publishers to avoid most of the actual costs, as the bulk of the editorial burden, including checking scientific validity and evaluating experiments, is done by working scientists on a volunteer basis. And I just wanted to add that in there because, Robert Maxwell, he's the one that pretty much began the peer review process.
Incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That was wonderful. But,
Mhm.
but I also know that some of these things, they would like them to withstand rigorous scientific scrutiny.
Mhm.
But not if everyone has a voice in the room. Because you see,
Right.
one of the main reasons why mainstream archaeologists say, no, the slaves built the pyramids with these copper
Right.
tins, and they just continue, like, no matter what. Why? It's because their position, they're not going to give up their position. They will be out of a job.
Thank you.
Egyptology brings in millions and millions of dollars every year. So
Thank
they,
you.
they got it sweet. Yeah,
Thank
they
you.
would never. Nah,
Just think about it. Okay, just the Egyptology in Egypt, but then think of all the movies and the media, the cartoons, the toys. How many mummy movies did they got? Like
yeah,
4
yeah.
mummy movies. They did 3 and then waited 20 years and then came back with a remake with Tom Cruise. It was
Yeah,
Mission Impossible meets the Mummy now. You know what I mean? Like, and it's the same
yeah.
people in the
Mm,
end of the day, and they're not telling the true stories. You remember how they bastardized Imhotep? Imhotep is one of the arguably one of the greatest minds of the ancient world.
mhm.
Imhotep,
Yeah.
master
Yeah.
architect, master
Mm,
physician, a
mm,
vizier to the
mm,
Neset Biti, which they call a pharaoh, but it's actually a Neset
mm,
Biti, right?
mm,
Vizier to the Neset Biti, created all these institutions, professor, he was
mm,
Hippocrates before Hippocrates. He was I can't remember what the Greeks called him. They call him like Sostris or something like that, but he
mm,
was their god of medicine. He was the Greek god of medicine. This
mm, mm,
man named Imhotep. And what they do with him in the Mummy movie, they
mm.
bastardize him, turn him into an
Yep.
evil, wicked
Evil,
sorcerer.
wicked. Yeah, yeah. Then they threw in the rock. Then the second.
Right. The
Oh man,
Scorpion
with the
King, right.
Scorpion King. Come on.
Right. And the Scorpion King he wasn't a wicked person either. The Scorpion King. I'm not going to speak on him because I don't know too much about him, but he was not a wicked individual like they tried to make him out to be in the Mummy movie. So this is what they do.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, especially you know, when we do speak about Dr. Hawass. When I first saw him, he was so passionate and so like a strong figure. Like he filled up the room and the screen. I was like, wow, I really like this guy. I want to be like him, right? Because I'm like you. I love history. I want to learn, bring in all of the archaeology and stuff. But then when I started to see him more and more, the more I started looking closer, I was like, oh, and this kid he's wicked, man.
Right.
He won't allow. He's got some really good points, but I had spoken to you before about a gentleman by the name of Graham Hancock.
Yes,
he was the one who had a conflict with him. He finally got him in one of these big discussion halls and everything. Yeah, and just stepped to him and was like, why you lying? Like, just why don't you say it? Like, yeah. Oh, he's like, he got all in his face. I was like, wow.
Well, Zahi, for the longest time, and I don't know where he stands now, but he wouldn't go into the Nubian connection of Kemet. As far as I know, he doesn't even call it Kemet. He calls it Egypt. What he does there, it's tightly controlled. He's the huge gatekeeper in Egypt right now. And for our listeners who may not know, Egypt is, we call it, you see, Brother Omar and I call it Kemet because that's one of the proper names of it is Kemet. And that's how that was one of the names that they knew it as. So why are we calling it Egypt? Egypt is, the name, the bastardization of one of the names of, I think it was Heliopolis or something like that, which is Het Ka Ptah, the house of the spirit of Ptah, which is one of their so-called deities. It's a bastardization of that Het Ka Ptah. And, flipped it around, remixed it into Greek and became Egypt. And that's why people call it Egypt today. But that's not the name of this land. Kemet gives a better description of it. And once you start talking about Kemet, then you're talking about Nubia, you're talking about Inner Africa, you're talking about the land of Kenti, which is down by Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda. Then you're going into the Congo, and then you're going down into South Africa. And this is really where the birthplace of the culture came from. And so speaking about it in its cultural context, and this is the thing, because even as they're talking about it now, at some point they're not going to be able to escape the cultural context and the historical context of this discovery. They're not going to just be able to say, okay, this is just in these pyramids and it was done by Egyptians, people who look like swarthy Greeks. You know what I'm saying? It's like no. This is whatever was done there was done by African people. So what does that say? If this was done in what we now call Egypt, what does the rest of the continent have in store that we don't know about? And it's wild because there's this book, Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Kushite Empire. And I read that, I try to tap into that every year a little bit. It was published by Drusilla Dungy Houston in 1926. Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Kushite Empire. Everybody should read this book because it gives, for me, when I was coming into consciousness, it gave me better context for history, for comprehending, for understanding history, right? And so there's one section where she's talking about the Nile Valley and she talks about all the dolmen and all the mounds, right? And so this wraps in what you and I were talking about the other day, brother. Mound culture. Look into mound culture because mound culture is African culture. And what she said about the mounds, she said that there's mounds along the Nile, along the Hapi, which is the proper name for the Nile. There's mounds all through Africa that have cities below them. She said this in 1926.
Right, right, right. You
right?
see? You see? You see?
And it's
Yeah,
what
this
you
is that.
said, right?
Yeah. It's not new. This is nothing new. They were already talking about plenty of these things. I had an opportunity to go to the major museum there in Cairo, right? The
Mm,
Cairo Museum, and you
mm,
get to see all kinds of things. Like you get to see, some of the original cylinders that were found too.
mm.
That speak about different astral bodies that they already knew about, and you also got to see this device that looks like a mechanical, electronical, something that is giving energy, almost like a fan type of thing, and it's
Ooh,
made from something that cannot be carved, not with no copper tools or anything like that. So some of the and then I got to see Akhenaten, right?
mhm,
So when you see his statues, it was a big, huge honor for me too, because I always admired Akhenaten. Always,
mm,
always admired him. Why?
mm,
Because he was a rebel, right? You
mm.
see, he was the one that went against the things that
Right,
were going on. He went, he started worshiping, the Aten, right, which
mhm,
was like an older
right,
god, but he said he was getting these messages, and all of these things, like the
right,
sun rays or whatever, or it could be interpreted different ways, right?
mhm,
Um, but w- you know, when you see Akhenaten, the bust of him in sculpture, huge statues, bro. You see him
right,
with his lips, like the big bembes and the big
mhm,
nose, like this. I'm like,
mhm,
it's right there. It's right there. This
mhm,
this is an African,
right,
culture, of course. What happened before those things? I mean, some people say, well, Africans were the ones who built the pyramids, which is a good chance, that they did. But in some of the glyphs, they say that they got the knowledge also from the gods that came
mhm,
too. You see,
right,
so
right, and it's like, what were the gods, you know? The gods, they didn't even use the word gods, they used Neteru or Necheru, you know? So
mm,
what were the
mm,
Necheru? Those were
right,
aspects of nature, those were aspects of the
mm, mm,
creation.
mm,
So where did they get that information?
right. Right, right. There's lots of mysteries. I did want to take a moment to mention some of the documentaries that I had seen that was super powerful, also, such as Magical Egypt
Mm,
and the Pyramid Code. I don't know if you know of any of these.
I've heard
There's
of
a
them, I don't know
there's
if
a
I've seen them.
there's a gentleman by the name of John Anthony West, big time. I mean, he knows his stuff. He did his homework. Wow, deep stuff. And then, there's also Robert Bauval.
Mhm.
You know him, right? He's
Right.
really great too. And Robert Schoch, do you know Robert Schoch? He was the
No.
one who brought to light about around the Sphinx, right? Around the Sphinx, that he said there's water erosion on the rocks.
Oh,
You
yes, yes,
only
yes.
get you
Okay.
only get those type of grooves when there's running water for a very, very long
Yes.
time. And they said, wait a minute, wait a minute. You can't go around saying that. They tried to shut them down.
He
Why?
he
'Cause they would push back the date like 20,000
he
years
pushed
ago.
back the date like 20, 30,000 years, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and it goes to, and the dates that he pushed it back to align to when the Sahara in this region
Hmm.
actually had water, and it was lush rainforest.
Hmm. 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 For sure, for sure. So those are some of them too, and there's some good information out there people can look at, and plenty of books to read. But I would suggest that you stay away from the Discovery Channel,
Ooh, and the History Channel,
PBS. I mean,
PBS.
I'm just saying they're
Listen,
good. They know how to keep a brother's attention for sure.
listen, they still got British guys as pharaohs. You know what I mean? and
Yeah.
Elizabeth Taylor looking.
Yep. Yeah, that started to bother me, man. That's why I
Yeah,
stopped watching them. I'm like, man, you can't even get the characters looking right. Come on, bro.
right. They just
But
stop.
yeah, and then some of the information that they were bringing too. Once you start knowing things, you're like, no, no, nope, that's not true. No, nope,
Right.
that one too. No, no. You know what? Turn it off.
Yeah.
Turn it off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I had to do. I had to stop, just start
it's
cutting
just
it off.
entertain.
Like,
Yeah, it's just entertainment. That's really
yeah,
what it is.
that's
It's like what was that show about the ancient aliens,
Oh yeah.
right? So they had some great information,
Yup.
but then they started going off the beaten path like a little
Mhm.
while. Like, come on, it's a little way out. Now you way out, but
All the way out. It
yeah,
got to
yeah.
be a little annoying.
That was based on the Chariots of the Gods.
Yes.
I forgot his name, the one who
Was it
wrote that
Buval?
book. No, 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 no. Victor Van Daniken. Van
Van
Daniken.
Daniken. Yeah, Van
Yep.
Daniken. Right. Yeah, chat. Right.
Powerful, powerful. I mean, he fell into some controversy too, because
Mm.
he said he found some things, and then when they look, he looked like he planted it, and then he was like, "Yeah, right, I kind of planted it." I was like, "Ah, bro, yeah, yeah, yeah." That's why I say take the message, not the messenger. Don't be
Yeah,
digging because people got
seriously.
their own. Human are like that. We're fallible, and we reach for power and position. If we see it
Right.
coming, and
Right. And let's be real, some people really do have agendas as well. And so, like as people listen, like even people listening to us, you know what I'm saying? Like take what we
Mhm,
say. If it
mhm.
interests you, go do some homework on it for
Go do
yourself.
some
Don't
homework.
just listen to what we say. We're just presenting it to you as we're getting it,
Mhm, 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 mhm. For sure. For sure. I mean, there's so many mysteries that are going on there in Egypt alone. And when you look at some of the structures, these huge megaliths, right? Because it was like they can't even do it now
Because
with the
that's what they
machinery
are.
that they have.
That's what they
Right.
are as megaliths.
Exactly. That's what they are. So how they move them? I heard one story that they said, according to some of the writings, the writing said the priest had something in his hand, and when he struck it, the boulder, the rock, got up and moved into its position, bro.
I think you told me that. Now I've heard
Yep.
that.
Hmm,
I've
hmm,
heard
hmm,
that.
hmm,
Now
hmm.
I'm gonna tell you what Mfundishi Yahutama said. You know Mfundishi?
I do not.
Mfundishi, that name means Grand Master, right?
Mm,
Mfundishi Jehutamas, he is a Kemetic scholar. And when I say Kemetic scholar, like he reads the Medunetter. So when he goes and brings groups over there, they
mm,
can sit there and read what's on the
mm,
walls, be like, this is what's
mm.
the right.
I know who you're talking about. Go ahead.
Okay, right. So
Good.
Mfundishi, when he went there, he said years ago he was able to kind of examine the stones. And he said that the stones of the pyramid, which is properly called Merkut, he said that the stones of Merkut, they look as if they've been poured like cement. They've been poured like cement. And he said that these people, these scientists were masters of these different realms, masters of the plant realm, the animal realm, the mineral realm, the human realm. And once you become, or could maybe call them domains, right?
Mm,
But once, because in order to grow plants, you need to be a master of the mineral domain because it's the minerals in the soil that feed the plants, right? It's the
mhm,
plants that feed the animals. And so, how do the animals and the plants interact with each other? How do the plants interact with the minerals? So, he said they were masters of the mineral domain. And he said that they were able to break the granite down into a pourable powder and then
mm,
pour it in.
mm. Right.
That's
This is
his
what
hypothesis.
I've heard of this too. Like I had an opportunity also to go to Cusco.
Mm,
Cusco was the capital of different empires. The Inca Empire was the last big one that was there, and that was
mhm.
their capital. And Pizarro, I believe it was Pizarro, as he said, when they started approaching the city, you could see it gleaming from miles. That's how much gold that they had, bro.
Wow.
In any case, the stonework that's there is similar to Egypt, right?
Right. Right.
And and this is one of the theories that someone had also come up with too, that it it was that it was poured into it. It was poured somehow, and that's why you always find these occasional bumps on some of the rocks, like because there was some sort of
Mm,
thing like to hold it in place or something like that.
like
And
a
then when they
mold.
solidified, that's why you cannot even put a razor blade through these but to get them at such precision, fine,
Right.
it's outstanding.
It is.
They're in I can't remember the location. I'll try to look it up, but in Peru, there was an area that was by a temple in the back, and when they started clearing things, they found the stonework was exactly like the ones in Egypt.
Well,
Not kind of.
that's interesting because I said this, I think I said this in an interview. I don't even think it was a Clarity Code show, but I'll bring it up again, right?
Mhm.
This is a huge piece to the pie, right? And that's the qubit. Find out who's using the qubit, and you will find out who can trace back to Kemet.
Mm.
I wouldn't be surprised if the architecture you're describing there in Peru didn't use the qubit. I'd be surprised if it didn't use the
Mhm.
qubit.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Interesting.
As a
Yeah.
system of measure.
Right. Right. I could see that. I could see, but some of the stonework that is there too. It's just it's mind-boggling, and then you think about the obelisk, right? In
Yes.
ancient Kemet, right? There's even one that's like halfway in the ground too. Like they
Right.
said, oh, they just gave up on it or something like that, hey, whatever. But how could they
Right.
even move it? Like,
How did they do that? How
yeah,
did they lift it up? You know
yeah,
what I mean? Or did they build it
mm,
working
right.
its way? Either way, somebody had to get up there at some point.
Yeah, well, it's one solid rock, and they noticed that there was these other harder structured boulders that they would use and continue to hit it, like to scrape it, like kind of on the sides and underneath. But at some
Mm,
point, you can't keep going in. You can't. It would fall right on you.
right.
So at some point, they had to snap it off, and get it up and bring it over to the location, which oftentimes was miles away, bro. Like so.
Right. Exactly. And that's why I think we have to be able to entertain ideas like levitation and all this, because this is the thing. And with modern science right now is they tend to view the past in terms of what they understand.
Right.
Understandably so, but it's like they also have a lot of documents and records in their archives that they don't share with the public.
Mhm.
And
No,
they
that's
can't properly interpret those writings either. They're
right.
still, like they call them gods. Like the
Yeah.
Kemetic people did not refer to their beings, their
Mm.
enlightened essences as gods. They
Mm.
had no that what what the West calls gods and what they call in the Teru are completely different things. They're not the
Mm.
same. That's like
Mm.
calling a hammer a screwdriver. They're just
Right,
not the
right.
same thing.
Got you.
You
Got you.
see what I'm saying?
Understood.
And so
Understood.
they're hiding away these texts and interpreting them through an
Mhm.
eye that's not interpreting it properly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what I would like to say is that, they have lots of knowledge, right?
Mhm.
That's why I often say the stuff with the powers that be, the stuff that they give us, they don't believe in that. They're
Right,
giving it to us, bro. They
right.
already know deeper, esoteric and all types of other things too. And then
Mhm.
energy sources, right? So
Right.
getting back to the pyramids, here we are with these things that, hey, they already knew that things were going on in these places like that. They know it. They know lots of things. They love to reverse engineer it.
Mm,
Right? You see, because
right.
I read somewhere that the government, and the powers that be, they are like 300 years
Mm.
into the future with technology. 300 years,
Want to
bro.
hear something wild? I heard that they're 1,200 years in the future.
You see? Yeah. That's why they know that they said like 85 of the unidentified flying objects that you see, they're all from here, bro. They're from
Right,
Earth, bro. They come on, bro.
right.
That's it. You want to go see them? They go see them. There's places where you could view them, stay all night, and go, oh my God,
Right.
there's lights. Oh my God. Oh, the aliens, they're here. They're here. It's
You
like,
know what I'm saying?
no, sister.
They come back every night for you? Okay.
Yeah. Just show up just so you can see them and then go back into the
They-
earth.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? They don't communicate with anybody. They don't.
Mm, right, right. Right, 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 right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
that's a really good point. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think what that you're right. I think you're right. The technology that they have, because so you remember, I think it was in the last show, we talked about the endogenous human biofield, and we were reading through those papers. Those are the ones that are available to the public, and they're
Mhm.
behind a paywall. What
Mhm.
about the ones that are not available to the public? There was
Right?
the scientist Robert O. Becker. And
Mhm.
Robert O. Becker, apparently he did some work for the Department of Defense, because he was
Mhm.
studying from, so there's this doctor, Dr. Jack Cruz. He's a neurosurgeon, dope scientist, like amazing mind, right? Dr. Jack Cruz, Kruse, I
Mhm.
think is how you spell his name. But
Mhm.
I was listening to one of his interviews, and he talked about Dr. Robert O. Becker. He explained that back in the day, back in like the 60s, 70s, maybe, Dr. Becker was like the Anthony Fauci. Okay. And
Mm.
he was studying he kind of came across the human biofield, the endogenous human biofield, and
Mhm.
he was studying limb regeneration. And when he
Mm.
came up with some promising results for how limbs can be regenerated, because he was studying salamanders, frogs, and
Mhm.
this gets real technical,
Right.
but he started to write papers about it, and he started to really do research about it. And this is the thing, because if you look at PubMed, right? If you look at PubMed, where they publish these papers, you're only going to see like 2 or 3 of his papers. And
Mm.
I don't know if any of them are on limb regeneration, but that
Mm.
stuff
Mm.
apparently is, might be behind like a classified type of
Right.
paywall.
Right.
You're not gonna be able
Yeah.
to see it. It's like, why? That's a huge thing. You see all the
Mhm.
soldiers out there being mangled and all kind of crap. You know what I'm saying? Faces
Mm.
blown off. And I don't mean to be
Yeah. Mm.
explicit, but this is
Mm.
where we're at, ladies and gentlemen.
Mhm.
This is like the real world. Let's not sugarcoat it. We got
Yeah.
veterans who listen to this show, people,
Mhm.
in all
Mhm.
kind of situations,
Mhm.
telling me
Mhm.
that these people can have their limbs regenerated and
Mhm.
faces regenerated, and
Yeah.
this information is being suppressed from the
Yeah.
people. Like, that makes
Yeah.
no sense. Like, the
Yeah. Mm.
technology is out there, just like you
Right.
said.
Mhm. It makes me think of Tesla too. That
Yes.
when he passed on, they said like within the hour they were there, took
Hmm.
all his papers and everything. Then his family showed up later in the day. The place was a wreck. It was like, where are that's our family member? Give us
Right.
back those papers. Years. It took years. And then when they got it back, it was all didacted.
Right. They just
All didacted. They with the black marker.
they created the black marker for Tesla. That's a
Yep.
lie, people. I'm just saying, they
Yep.
created
Yep.
the Sharpie
Mhm.
for Tesla.
Yep, exactly, exactly. It's just they don't want to give that information to us, and they want to keep us suppressed. So when you think
Right.
of like energy, right? We're
Right.
going back to the pyramids again. This energy, it's free. You see,
Hmm.
that's how they were powering things around the planet. You see,
Right.
they knew that those things were there. And then when you speak about the Great Pyramids itself, right? It
Mhm.
I think the width of it is like the equivalent to the Earth's circumference or something.
Yes,
Is
it's
correct, right?
the perimeter of the base is the
Mm,
Earth's equatorial circumference, and
right?
then the height
Yeah.
is Earth's polar circumference.
Mm,
But this is both of them times 43,200.
mm, mm, mm,
43,200 is the magic number.
mhm. That's the frequency,
Right. That, and you talking about 432 hertz.
right?
That's the Schumann resonance, which is basically the Earth's heartbeat.
Mm.
And so it's like, oh, well, brother, it's probably just a big coincidence, right? It's probably just a huge coincidence that they encoded this into this structure.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
no way that they could
Right.
have intentionally encoded this
Well,
into the structure, right?
mm,
And this is why I say to you, like, I really feel that they laid everything out there for us. We just
mm,
haven't caught up to that
mm,
science yet, and we probably
mm.
weren't supposed to slip that far from it.
Right,
but we
right,
got this
right.
whole suppression thing going on right now, so we don't know.
Right, right. It makes me think of the sacred geometry, right? So they're making all of these discoveries, and they want to try to keep us like every little shiny object. Oh, look what we found, and all this, and there's controversy and all that. But
Mhm,
the beauty of sacred geometry is that two and two is four here, and in China, and in Canada, and in, in the Congo, right? So
mhm,
you could change books, you could change words. You could have the King James version, you could have
mm,
the Mary Smith version, you could have all that, right? Everybody got that, but
mhm.
you cannot change the math.
Right,
No. No, those sacred geometry structures, it's they're telling a story. That's they knew that. They knew it. That's why me and my wife we've had the opportunity of doing quite a bit of traveling. And
mm,
one of the reasons why is because we were learning about all of these sacred sites and structures, and we just wanted to be there, feel
mm.
the energy, touch the stone, see what they were saying. They're talking about diamond cutting technology. The
Right,
people who just had rope and copper chisels, no, no, we had to go see this for ourselves, bro.
mm,
Take the temple of Dendera, right?
mhm.
You know, the temple of
Talk about
Dendera, right?
it.
Right? Yeah. Dendera is where they have the oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Mhm, mhm. You keep
Then
talking, brother. I want to just hit the people with this while you're discussing, while you're
of course,
describing Dendera.
right. That's where they found the glyph on the stone with the light bulb. And they even shows like the generator and that's giving it electricity with the filament, right? But
Mm,
they come out with these other fantastical things about, oh, there's just symbolism, the snake with the flower of life and all that. Yeah,
right,
that's how they just explained it like that. But they were telling you what's going on right there.
right. Because
They also didn't have powers though.
they describe things in terms of nature. In the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, we're the only ones. This society, this modern society, is the only society really that divorces science from so-called spirituality, or science from spirit. I'll say science from spirit, where
Mm-hmm.
we act as if, I don't want to say they act as if science is separated from spirit. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just not the case. Everything is spirit. Everything is imbued in spirit. Everything is imbued with consciousness. Consciousness is at the foundation of matter. It's at the foundation of our existence. And so
I
if
love this.
you right, and so if you're coming from a society where that's the baseline for information, then your
Mm-hmm.
science is going to be built on that. I always go to the Chinese because I know that a little bit more, where they talk in terms of the five elements,
Mm-hmm.
metal, water, wood, fire, earth.
Mm-hmm.
But then they talk about what's going on in the body in terms of that, and they can diagnose and treat things that
Mm-hmm.
Western science still cannot diagnose and
Mm,
treat in
Yeah,
terms of that.
right. They need all these fancy electronical things to see your body and all of that. When there was like, I mean, you think of in India, right?
Mhm.
When the Vedic, the foods that they eat, right? You always get the sour, the hot,
Yes. Mhm.
it escapes me for the moment, but I had one of those doctors. All he did was touch my pulse, right? And that's an ancient in China and Japan, and
Mhm.
all they do is just feel
And in
your
India.
pulse. And
Mhm.
in India, right? Or they look at your
Yeah,
tongue, or they feel your
yeah.
pulse. That's it. They know already. Look, you got to do this. You got to do that. Yeah,
Thank you. Physical diagnosis.
yeah,
They're looking at your pulse, they're looking at your tongue, they're looking at your eyes, your skin,
mhm,
the way your breath
mhm,
smells, the
yeah, yeah,
patches people may have on their skin, discolorations. They're
mhm,
checking your abdomen, and
mhm.
all this stuff they're doing. They don't need an MRI, they don't need a CAT
Right,
scan, they don't need an
right, right.
X-ray. They'll tell you what the X-ray can't find.
Yep, yep, yeah. Well, how is it that these things are practical for us in our daily lives? And you spoke about that energy, that biofield that we have, right? It makes
Mhm.
me think of like the Matrix. They said, "Oh,
Right.
you're like a copper top." You tell them,
Right.
right, right, because
Yes.
we're just energy. So they made that story about how they could harness energy from human beings, which
Right.
which is not too far fetched, and I'm sure they're doing some of those things at the moment. The repopulation and those type of things. Oh,
So
I don't want to go too far.
you don't want to go too far because we could
Yeah.
we could dip our toes in it.
Yeah, yep, yep, yep. So what are they doing? We don't know, but you can use some of these things as practical applications for your daily life. Be aware of the energy that you carry within you. You
Hmm.
see, how do you use that? Your gut. What is your relationship with your gut? That's what
Right.
we're big on the sea moss and those type of alkaline your body too.
Right.
Like that.
I would say one thing. Well, a big thing, because we talked about it, right? Again, pulse diagnosis, tongue diagnosis, learn physical diagnosis. That's a great way for people to get more in tune with the energy. Because, like you said, we're energy. Our biofield, our endogenous human biofield is it's a tool of organization. It organizes our matter. It organizes our body, our organs, everything. And that's why Dr. Becker was on the brink of human limb regeneration because he realized that this biofield organizes
Mhm,
what would become a dismembered limb,
mhm,
let's
mhm,
say, right? So,
mhm,
how do we get more in tune with that biofield? Well, we got to get more in tune with ourselves, look at ourselves in the mirror,
mhm, mhm.
sit there and fast. And how do I feel when I fast? How do
Right.
I feel when I get the, kind of the distracting thoughts in Qigong? We call it the monkey mind, right? Where
Mhm,
you're supposed to meditate, you say, okay, all right, I gotta pick up the kids at 4, and then I gotta
mhm.
go cook dinner. And okay, so I gotta do this. So that means I gotta cook a meal for the next 7 days, right? And
Yeah.
you over there trying to meditate, right? That's the
Mhm,
monkey mind. So what happens when the monkey mind quiets down?
mhm,
Then you get to experience what's okay. All right, now the monkey mind's quiet down. Oh, I got a little ache and pain, that low back. Oh, how
mhm.
long has that been there? Oh, man,
Right.
that's been there for 14
Mhm.
years now. Oh,
Right,
right.
right,
Because I
right,
had, you know what I'm saying?
right,
And
right.
so,
More clarity. Mhm,
right. So that's how we get into our energy. Just
mhm.
going inside our bodies. Listen, I always tell people the way inward, the way out is infinitely inwards. People want to get out of this matrix, go into your body.
Mhm, mhm. For real, for real. Especially the eating. All cultures have fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Right.
So that's a powerful one too. I'm trying to think of that guy. Yeah, it'll come to me. So yeah, yeah. I mean, here we are in ancient Egypt. One of the birthplaces, right, of civilization, supposedly, right. Which
Mhm.
there's other stories that come from Atlantis, right.
Right.
My ancestors are from the island of Puerto Rico, and
Mhm.
you have the Dominican Republic, Cuba, right,
Mhm.
Haiti,
IET,
right,
right.
and they claim that. Some people claim that that's the remnants of Atlantis. That's where it
Mhm.
was right there. And that's what's left of it right there. In the
Mm.
Dominican Republic, there's even a place that's on a mountain where you put the car in neutral and it's pointing going up and it goes up. It doesn't go down, bro.
Heard of this. That's
Yeah.
in DR, you said?
Yeah, Dominican Republic. Yeah.
Wow, I've heard
Yeah.
of this place. Okay.
Yeah, there was chances are there was different locations of Atlantis. There was different ones. But they
Oh,
already know. They already know. The one who wrote about it, the philosopher,
oh yeah, Plato.
Plato, right? He was the one who
Mhm.
spoke about it. He wrote about it because it's true. He heard it from his
Right,
uncle. Like it was just
right,
true. It wasn't
right.
making. It wasn't a fanciful story or nothing like
Nope,
that.
nope.
And
And he gave what little fragments of the story he could give about it. And it's like for him, like, why would he make up something like that? What purpose would it serve this
yeah,
mythical
what purpose
land?
would it serve? Yeah, he wasn't like he was going to sell books on Amazon.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Just wait till I meet Jeff.
That's it. I'm going on the podcast this
Right.
week.
Right, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? As he walked back
none of
home,
that.
I'm about to
If he
break the
woke
internet.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it was none of that. There was
Mm-mm.
none of that. There was none of that. So the chances are there was many locations like that. That they don't want to tell us.
Yeah.
Some of these power structures that were going on. But according to some writings, people had left from there, and
Hmm.
where did they end up? They ended up like in Egypt,
Right.
in Kemet. That's where they ended up there, and they ended up in South America too. That's why you
Right.
find pyramids all over on these grid lines on the
Right.
earth where there's energy. There's one glyph, a Mayan glyph, where they show a catastrophe and all that, where people were escaping and those type of things. So they say,
Hmm.
look, there was something that went on at some time, and there was a
Right.
global catastrophe.
Right. Because, and this is the thing, right, it's a global catastrophe
Mhm,
on a global civilization. And
mhm,
and it wasn't just one catastrophe, it's a
mhm,
catastrophe over many hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of years. You
mhm,
hear about the different ages. I think we're in like the fifth or
mhm,
sixth age right now,
mhm,
maybe. Like
mhm,
there have been golden ages and there have been declines of golden ages. And
mhm, mhm.
just I think the other day when we did the show, that might have been the day after the end of the Kali Yuga. That
Mm.
Kali Yuga,
Okay. Okay.
this is the last, we're in the last little
Right.
throes of the Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
I can't remember how many tens of thousands of years the Kali Yuga is though.
Mm.
But
Mm.
what comes after that? I haven't looked at what comes after that. But does that
Right.
mean we're back on the upswing?
Right. Yeah. We always go down. We always come back up. I mean, as far as the history of man, I mean, because the human species, as far as they know, has been around for a certain amount of time. But every
Mm.
time they find some of these structures, bro, like the one in
Yes.
Göbekli Tepe in Turkey,
Yes,
that
bro.
they said that humans were running around like squirrels in the bush when that was made, bro.
I believe it. And it
That's what
has
they claim, but
dinosaurs.
they said, "How could it be? With someone built this structure, they carbon dated what it was there, bro." Yeah,
There's dinosaurs. There's carvings of what
yeah,
we would consider
yeah,
dinosaurs in Gobekli Tepe.
yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And this is the thing. Why, you know what I'm saying? Like, and this is why I guess we share, brother Omar and I share this frustration maybe with the archaeology and all this a little, because it's like, listen, children's history books should be rewritten every time something like this comes out. Like, F what
Yep,
you heard.
yep.
Gobekli Tepe exists. And this is
Yeah,
what's on it. They should
yeah.
have, this is the age of the internet. They should have detailed pictures, close ups of these
Mhm,
things, and let the
mhm.
children put their eyes on it and tell us what they think it means.
Yeah, yeah,
Why is it so secretive? Why are they still giving us old Newtonian physics when we've got quantum mechanics? You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah, yeah.
there's all these breakthroughs in quantum mechanics. And I bring that up because it ties in with what the ancients have been telling us. All the quantum mechanics stuff, you're going to find it in the Meduneter, the so-called hieroglyphs. You're going to find it in what the
Mhm.
Dogon have been telling us. You're going to find it in the Sanskrit. You know what I
Mm,
mean? You're going to
mm,
find it in the
mm,
Tao Te Ching, in
mm,
the Chinese medicine. You're going to find it
mm,
in these
mm,
places for
mhm,
sure.
mm,
Documented. They're going to tell
mm,
you the same thing. I went to a Vipassana. I don't know if I said this on there. I
mm,
went to a Vipassana. It was a 10-day meditation. And
mhm,
in that class, and it's based on the Indian tradition, they say that's the original meditation that the Buddha did, was
mm,
this Vipassana meditation. And when you do this meditation, you go infinitely inwards into one point, right?
mm, mhm,
So the information that the original Buddha was coming up with,
mhm,
Indian scientists, they read the scrolls and then they started doing their quantum mechanics studies, right? And
mhm,
they realized that it lined up perfectly with what the Buddha was saying about the quantum realm. What he
mm.
described when he went infinitely into his body was the quantum realm. And in like the last 20, 30 years, they discovered, oh, wait, this guy 7,000 years ago was right on point.
Right, 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 right. I love that. I love it when they catch up like that. It's like, yeah, oh, we discovered, man. They were saying that for a long time. Come on, man.
Mhm.
They've been saying that.
Right.
They've been got that. We just That's why nothing new under the sun. They're just rediscovering things like internet and we just use it in different ways. That's all. And they give credit
Right.
to these guys, whoever they want to give credit to.
Right.
I mean, when coming up, I was born in 1967, and I was in school by like the 70s, 80s. I think it was only until like in the 90s that's when I learned about Nicholas Tesla. And that's because I
Right.
was the one that was researching. I started getting older, and I said, "Wait, let me start reading stuff." And then I would tell people they didn't even know his name,
No.
nothing about him at all, bro. No,
Right.
you see, because they didn't want him. They didn't want him,
Right.
bro.
And then this guy out of apartheid South Africa comes up and takes his name and uses
Yeah,
it for these
yeah.
cars that like to blow up if you crash too hard.
You see? Yeah, cut your finger off if you get it snagged in the door or something.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm
I
saying?
know, I know, I know. It's crazy, bro. Ugly. And anyway,
Right.
y- yeah, I mean, but
Yeah. Mhm.
there's always going to be this sort of science that can help us, rise up to what we truly are, right? To be the
Mhm.
majestic beings that we really, really are.
Mm.
And there's always going to be some group of people that are always trying to suppress everyone. It's a
Right.
control thing. It's a power, right?
Right.
Ultimate power corrupts ultimately, or something
Right.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah, something like that.
yeah.
And I'm glad because that's a great segue into what I would wanted to share. This is the Kali Yuga, right? I just pulled this up. What is the Kali Yuga? Is the fourth and current age of the world cycle, often considered the quote unquote age of darkness or age of conflict, marked by a decline in morality and righteousness and believed to be the present era.
Mm,
Um, the Kali Yuga and the present Kali Yuga is believed to have begun around 5,000 years ago after the death of Krishna and is considered the present age. Characteristics: decline in morality, rise of negativity, and the end of Kali Yuga. The end of Kali Yuga is prophesied to occur with the appearance of Kalki, the 10th and final avatar of Vishnu, who will destroy the wicked and usher in the next cycle, Satya Yuga. So, if Kali Yuga ended the other day, then I guess we can anticipate the emergence of Kalki, right?
mm, mm,
Oh, wait. I think I met Kalki. Anyway,
mm,
I just
mm,
had I was just
mm.
I was like, I've heard that name before. I didn't mean to say that.
Right, right.
What I
Okay.
meant to say is,
Mm,
what is Satya Yuga
mm,
in Hindu cosmology? Because that's the age we're moving into now. Ooh,
mm,
Satya
mm,
Yuga is big too. Okay, that's what's up. It's a nice big section on
mm.
the pie chart.
Okay.
Satya Yuga, also known as Krita Yuga, is the first age or golden age in the cycle of yugas, characterized by truth, virtue, and righteousness, where
Mm,
humanity is considered spiritually advanced.
mm,
What it is? Satya Yuga is the first of the four yugas in the Hindu cyclical view of time, following which humanity descends into progressively less enlightened yugas.
mm,
It's the golden age. It's considered the golden age where humanity is righteous and free from wickedness. Truth and virtue. The age is characterized by truth, virtue, and righteousness. Spiritual advancement. People are believed to be spiritually advanced and close to God. No crime or deceit. There is no concept of crime, deceit, or falsehood.
mm,
So that's just to tie into what you were saying, brother. Like,
mm,
yeah,
mm,
we are coming, like this show and us coming together and people like us coming together in this time is right in alignment with the age.
mm,
And when it comes to, astrology and astronomy, which
mm,
again are one in the same science, but they were divided by people who maybe couldn't conceptually wrap their minds around it.
mhm, mhm,
But
mm,
the ancients understood that we move through these ages. And so
mm,
now we're moving into that age of enlightenment. And yeah, we
mm,
got to shake
mm,
off the dust from that Kali Yuga, which may take,
mm.
another 100 years. Who knows?
Right, right,
But
right.
we're in the upswing right now.
Mm. Yeah, it makes me think of in the age of Aquarius,
Right.
right? And there's a scripture that says, "Follow the guy with the water," right?
Right.
It's really an astrological description on what they're trying to say is that, go with that, go with the age of Aquarius, because that's the water sign
Mhm.
that's here now. So
Right.
But many cultures speak of these different ages. I had the opportunity also to go to the Grand Canyon. We went to
Mm.
Arizona, and we
Wow.
went to we went to the we went to the where the native live on the reservation, which are basically internment camps. Yeah, they're
Right.
basically like that because you can't even grow a blade of grass over there, so dry and arid. Meanwhile, where we
Right.
live, this was all there. Anyway,
Right.
um, my point is that they speak about that we're like in the fourth world or something like that, and they speak
Mhm.
about these catastrophes that have happened. And the
Mm.
last one that went down, where different humans and different species of animals too came through here to this world. And
Mm.
the last one that came through was the turkey, and his feathers in the back got wet by the water from the catastrophe, that water, and
Wow.
that's why the turkey feathers are white in the tip. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so do the natives eat turkey?
I don't know. I don't think so. That wouldn't be one of their I don't know. I think they might eat whatever, was game at the time,
Okay.
'cause they lived off the land, and
Right,
they
because
used every part of the animal too.
some animals are taboo, but I just
Yeah.
think it's just the irony of what,
Right.
Americans, what we do with
Yeah.
turkeys around
Yeah,
that
of course.
time of the year.
Of course, but the point really is that these different worlds that we're stepping into, all
Mhm.
cultures speak about, these cycles. Like we've
Mm.
come from somewhere and we're stepping into something else. So these pyramids, finding these things, whether it's true or it's false, it's there, and things are coming out now that people were already talked about. But I have a slight prediction. I think what's gonna happen. This is what
Mm.
I think anyway, right? Yeah. I believe that Zahi Wahas is going to come in with his people. They're going to get those other guys out there, shut it down, and go, nah, that's none of that's here. None of that's here. No. In fact, nobody else, to quiet everybody, nobody's allowed to come in here to be now study. We'll,
Right.
we'll, we'll tell you, we'll check it out, and we'll report back to you. Yeah.
We'll let you know what we find.
That's right. I
Mm.
that's my prediction that will happen. That's his only power
Wow.
play right there. Because if he starts saying, "Yeah, I agree with that," oh man, they're gonna want to look at everything and everywhere, bro. This ground penetrating, the SARS, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and so what they did was they took 2 different satellites and they beamed down whatever
Mhm.
signals, and they
Yeah.
got imagery from the both and then put it together and then started to put these 3D models together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that was like their check, their check and balances, their
Yeah.
confirmation. They
Right.
they measured it
See?
off of other
Yeah.
subterranean structures, I think in Italy, so that they had kind of a baseline to see, okay, is this
Yeah.
real or is this garbage, right?
Yeah.
These things are
Yeah.
like 4,000 feet underground,
Yeah.
and
And
then the
then
city.
yeah, and then the city, the halls of a mentine.
Right.
You see? That's where they come. Oh, we found the city. They've been telling you that there's a city. They've
Mhm.
been telling you. You find it all over. In Turkey, too, they have these underground, quite elaborate, tunnels,
Mhm.
whole cities, bro. Yep, with all
Mhm.
kinds of different chambers, and people were living there just fine,
Yep.
doing whatever they did there.
Yep. South and
And
Central America too.
yeah.
There's a huge culture of underground cities.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, Teotihuacan, because again,
Mhm.
as you can see, me and my wife, we used to do quite a bit of traveling.
I'm
We
trying to
got
be
the
like
young,
y'all when I grow up,
young
man. This
kids
is
now.
this is
We
Yeah.
got the young kids now, so
Mhm.
we're starting again because they're getting a little older. But
Mhm.
we had the opportunity, to go to Mexico,
Mm.
and we went to Mexico City, and we also went to Teotihuacan.
Mm.
Teotihuacan means the place where man becomes God.
Right.
Right. So they have the pyramids there, which, if you know anything about that structure, it looks almost exactly like a computer grid would look if you
Right.
took it from an aerial view. We have it the
Right.
same thing, chips in our laptops and all these type of things, bro. So nothing new.
Right.
But there are stones there too that they're located. They found this underground where they had these stones, and
Mm-hmm.
those stones are found nowhere else on the earth, bro. Another place, bro.
Wow.
It makes me think of the in Kemet, right? They had the Bembe stone, right?
Oh
That was
yes.
the cap. That was the capstone, and they said that that stone there too. You
Mm-hmm.
don't find it nowhere. You don't find it nowhere, bro. It was in the museum. Yeah, I know.
Right. Like, and why'd they take it off
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
first place? But
yeah.
then again, it's like they stripped it of its limestone.
Yep.
Like this. You're gonna send me down a rabbit hole tonight, brother.
Yeah.
I guarantee it, because I got some questions and some answers I'm about to seek out tonight. Because right, this for my scientists, for our scientists, right? Okay, so you have granite, right? That's what the Mercute is made of, granite. And then it had a smooth layer of limestone. And then the Ben stone is the capstone. What type of piezoelectric force is created from the granite and the limestone pressing against each other, absorbing the rays of the sun, the heat, all that stuff? What happens? They said that you could see that thing for miles with the sun shining on it because of the limestone, the brilliance of the limestone. And then people went and said, you know what, let's take that off of there. Like, why would y'all do that?
Yeah,
To go
yeah,
build a city?
yep.
Don't even make sense. What
Right,
was scientifically going on there that we should know about?
right. I also wanted to mention, because I could see the time is now. Oh my God, it's 1:11:11. Wow.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's Saqqara, right? The Saqqara tombs that are there, where the Apis bulls they claim, right? The Serapeum of Saqqara, and they say that, oh, because they found inside those casings, they're not sure what was there, but when they found on the inside, they had bones of different animals.
Oh
So they
yeah.
felt like, oh, that was just like where they burnt up but there's a whole thing with it, bro. We went there, it was unspeakable, bro. They had glyphs on the stone itself, but they look jagged compared to the boxes itself, bro. Those boxes were smooth like glass, bro. You would need
Really?
diamonds. And then they say, in order to get it into where it is right now, it was impossible, almost impossible to get those boxes that are in there. So there's many theories. They
Well,
said
then
that
the
they
lids are
were.
really heavy too, right?
Yep.
So who was lifting that?
I know.
But they were
And
putting their little
how did they
fingers
get
in
it in
there.
there? Yeah, exactly. And some say that they were traveling, like, beings got into them and traveled, interdimensionally and stuff that we don't, there's many different things, bro, but
And then
that's a big one too.
why? What type of bone? They say it's from different animals. Was it
Yeah.
from just one animal that
The
we don't
bull,
know
well, they
about?
say the Apis bull, this is one of the main ones that they found, but they found other ones too. Yeah. Did you see some of those? Oh, just stunning, bro. Just incredible. Like,
I haven't seen a lot of pictures. I've seen a few pictures over the years, but it's so tough to find pictures, like good pictures on the internet right now. It's
yeah.
crazy because you think the internet would get smarter, but I feel like it's getting a little dumber.
I'm glad you said that, because just I think it was today or yesterday I was trying to find some, behind the scenes stuff, like, and it wouldn't come up. Wouldn't come up, bro. I'm like, what?
Right,
They took it out, bro.
right.
They took it out. Okay. Let me see if we can do that. Here we are, right
There
here,
we
right?
go.
And we go with the background here, and then we'll go with, oh, it didn't show up. Uh I'll get it. Give me a second. I'll come back to it. But it's a super important site, in the history of that land. Like, who put those things there? What was the
Right.
purpose of it? And so remote too. Wasn't like it was, right there in the fresh part of town and stuff like that.
You had to go off the beaten path a little bit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, when we went to Kemet, we went with a woman. Her she actually was in one of those documentaries that I told you about, Magical
Mm,
Egypt,
okay.
right? Because we were gonna go with Anthony West, but it was too soon, so we waited a little bit in the year, and then we ended up going with her. Let me see if I see her name again.
Mm,
Um Carmen Butler. That's her name.
okay.
Carmen Butler, right? So, um, you know, she had a good documentary thing, and she had a lot of knowledge. But then when you get there and you meet these people, they're like, they wasn't
Mm,
giving us the good, the juicy
right.
stuff.
Right.
All right, we're back again.
There's
So
a
here we go.
there's a documentary before I forget that
Mm,
if you haven't seen it, it's I'm gonna find the name of it. I'll see if I can find it right now. But
mm,
this documentary is about Atlantis, and it
mm,
talks
mm.
about Atlantis, them finding. Oh wow, there you go, that right there.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
There must have been like a dozen of these. They called them sarcophagus, but they never found no body in there or nothing like that.
they just
And
call
and
them.
and, and yep.
Hmm.
I mean, just getting them in there. Forget about cutting them, but just getting them in there. They were like, nah. And there was one like in the hallway in the beginning when you came in, like, and they said it looked like they abandoned that one. Like, but that's another thing about the abandoning.
Right,
What happened? Because that
right.
that happened around the world too. I know in South America too. Like they were so intricate with history and stuff like that, and they said that at some point everything stopped, as if people dropped their tools and just cut out, bro.
And how about that? And so you know what that looks like to me? Throw a little theory in on this. You know what that looks like? That looks like the bottom part,
Mm,
they did whatever they did. They brought that into a room that
mm.
was made out of this material because the top part looks like it's made of the same thing as the rest of the room.
Yeah, it
And
is.
it looks like they
Well,
carved the top
bottom.
part out of the room. And I'm
Mm,
just guessing.
mm.
I'm
I,
just
I, I
guessing.
I think the stones, those two, top and bottom, are exactly the same, and
Really?
that stone is not there inside those places. No, it's
It's not
not.
inside of there.
It's not.
Oh,
No,
plot
no,
twist.
no.
Plot
Yeah,
twist. Never
yeah.
mind my theory.
You're right. It's quite extraordinary, and and
Wow.
and to try to bring some of that back. I feel that we have access to these things.
Hmm.
We have access to power. We do. We talk about free energy and all that, but just you on a biological level too. That's why they try to keep us, with these shiny objects they keep throwing in front of our faces,
Hmm.
trying to keep us confused and, flat earth, round earth, 13 months, 12,
Right.
okay, that's fine. That's fine. But we're powerful, bro.
Right.
Beyond measure. Beyond measure.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. And
We should
yeah,
carry
I'm just.
ourselves
Oh yeah,
accordingly.
go ahead, brother.
We should carry ourselves accordingly, to some of this ancient knowledge. Let's get back to the ancient ones.
Yeah.
We spoke last time about that, like grounding. Go
Mm,
to the park, take your shoes off, like that. There's energy that's being distributed there, you know. That's your body. Push it, push it. It's one of the reasons why I go running. Why? Because I don't want to go. That's why, Cameron. I don't feel
mm,
like going. That's why I go.
that's
Because I
real.
don't wanna do it. Yeah, but it puts me in a different state. It opens me up, bro. It makes everything just possible, bro. It's quite remarkable, bro. So it's just keep steady at it. Keep going on it. Stay on it. Stay on it. Whatever you do, what do you lift weights, yoga, breath work, swimming, I don't know, anything, something
Right.
like that. Some of those solitary things are always good. When you start getting into teams, you start throwing an ego right there.
Mm,
You play, you always find that guy, right? Talking smack, like he's winning the NBA, champion. Bro, it's just a game, bro.
right.
So,
And there's
solitary.
I'm glad you said that because there's nothing like fighting against yourself or competing against yourself.
Exactly. You're always fighting against yourself. The fight
Right.
is against yourself. It's not about, oh, the other team and all that. No, it's not about that. You see,
Mm-hmm.
when you think of guys like the accomplishments of Kobe and other guys like that too, like, for
Right.
whatever they are or were or whatever, like their work ethic, their discipline, it's through the stratosphere, bro. Super
Mm.
laser focus, man. Have you ever tried to focus on something? Try to focus on something for like 30 seconds.
Right.
Staying focused on that 1 minute. Try 5 minutes.
Yep.
Now do that for 5 days, bro.
Yep.
You see?
Exactly.
How
And that,
consistent can you be?
and that's that monkey mind, People try to focus and then it goes off into different places and then they got to come back. Like, yes, yes, exactly what you're saying, bro.
That's what we're all about here. That's what the clarity code is about. Just getting people clear on some of these things. That's it. Let's get clear, family. Let's
Yeah.
go. Let's go. Watch it. Watch out. The shiny things, the objects, they want to trick us on a lot of these things. And then you think about some of these doomsday reports, right? Like, oh, the 2012,
Mm.
oh my
Talk
God,
about it.
it's gonna
Talk
blow up
about it.
the planet. Right? I've said many times, those people who are saying those things, that's their job to say those things, bro.
Yep.
They make
Thank
money, they make position and prestige and all that, bro. So
Thank
I'm
you.
not saying that things are not gonna happen, because things are always gonna happen, bro.
Listen, this thing's happening every day. There's things happening every day that are not reported on that would blow people's minds if they knew that they were
They
happening.
knew. Yeah.
But they wake up and they go about their business not knowing that things have popped off and they're
Mhm.
all right.
Yeah, yeah. You remember some years ago, it was about all those fish that were showing up on the shore, or the
Gosh,
whales, or the what happened? Nobody said nothing. They was like, "Oh, we
y'all,
don't know.
y'all
We
had
don't know what
and,
happened." That
and
was
people had and the general public had nothing to say about that in the end of the day.
yeah, right at the end of the day. Yeah, because now we know is this they're doing government testings and stuff like that. They're
Right.
trying different things and they're doing different things. So they're
Mm-hmm.
gonna continue to do it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
The islands over there. Oh man, I'm not gonna
You're not
say it.
going there. Okay, that's cool. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm
They
ready.
smoke out the whole place, smoke the whole, and only if they had the blue umbrella. That's the only
Oh
ones
my
that was
with the folks with the blue rooftops.
the blue rooftop. They were the only ones that was saved, man. Oh man, please get out of here,
Come
bro.
on.
Yeah.
It's what it is, and it's part of the fabric of our reality right now. And for
Mhm.
me, that's why I'm okay talking about certain things, and we don't have to go into depth about it. But that's why it's like, if folks don't know what we're talking about, just look up blue roofs and fires, and then
Right, right,
go down a
right.
nice little rabbit hole. Have fun
Exactly.
with that.
Yeah, yeah. We don't know. We don't know. There's lots of things that come out and people come up with these stories. Like I was there and I saw it, this other things, but I'm not gonna say them. You're not gonna make me, bro.
That's cool. That's cool.
People come out, they be like, I saw it. No,
Mhm.
that's not what happened. I was here, I saw it. And then they run with the other story. Oh, this came out of the sky and blah, blah, blah. And
Right.
it's just
Right.
shiny objects, man. Just trying to get us. Stay focused, family.
Right. Thank you. And that's the thing, right? It's the shiny objects that you're talking about.
Mhm, 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 mhm.
Yeah.
There should be no room for any of those things. We should, as a man thinketh, right? This is a
Hmm.
great book. Like just uh, master yourself, master your mind. You have to master your mind. That's why I
Right.
do some of the things that I do, Cameron, because I
Mm,
I want to be the best version of myself, right? Whatever that looks like. Because
mm.
everybody has a different interpretation of that. They're like, "Let me see your bank account." Like that doesn't make me a man.
It's not exactly it.
It's not it, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see? So I have to master my mind. How would I do that? Study it. Look at your mind. See what's there. What keeps
Right.
coming up? Is it those sexual thoughts that keep coming up? And
Right.
then you're really on it, like wow, fantasizing about the sexual things, like
Right.
watch yourself, grab yourself, step
Mm.
back, just observe those things, and you'd be like, nah, I'm better than that. That's fantasy. That's not gonna happen. It's nothing. It's no, no.
Right. And that goes back to again being aware of our thoughts, because I told you, man, there was a time when I was not aware of my thoughts, and then all of a sudden it hit me like, oh damn, like
Mm-hmm.
I am now aware of the thoughts that I'm thinking. You know, I was a young man at the time, but it tripped me out then, and even now, that there was a time where I wasn't aware of the thoughts that I was thinking, and then it kind of scared me, like what type of actions that I was taking based off of the thoughts that I was aware that I was thinking, unaware that I was thinking, you know? And so this is, is a healthy challenge for people to think about the thoughts that you're thinking and how they impact your day to day, because you
Right.
might be having these things going through your mind that are influencing behavior that you're not even aware are influencing behavior.
Mm.
And then what type of behavioral patterns have been created based off of thoughts that may not even belong to you. That's like if you're watching a lot of TV, and then you see someone pop a soda and you say, let me go get a drink from the fridge. Let me go get a soda from the fridge. And you may not even be aware that it's because of the commercial that just popped the soda. So now who's controlling your thoughts? Who's controlling your actions?
Exactly. Exactly. And just, yeah, it's always you. It's always you. I always think of Carl Jung, that he said, one who looks outside dreams, one who looks inside awakens.
Ooh,
Mhm,
that's dope.
mhm. Yeah. Yep. Look inside, however that looks. That's why some people, they're afraid to do it. They were like, "Ooh, no, I don't. Nah, just go get my nails done." And,
Tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something that what when a young bucks was explaining to me, because he was, when COVID happened, he was about 24, 23 when COVID hit, right?
Mhm.
He said one of the major issues that people in his age group and younger had was being alone with themselves and their thoughts. It
Mm.
wasn't even being alone by itself. It
Right.
was being alone with their thoughts and their
Oh,
minds.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it. Yeah, look at that. That's crazy. Yeah,
That's
that's why they got all the video games. It's just distraction,
yeah,
just to prevent you from knowing who you are, to stepping into your power. See, I'm
right.
I like to think of myself as a self-aware person. I'm aware of who I am, what my thoughts look like and stuff like that. I'm a
Right,
man. I'm a man, you know.
right.
And
Thank you.
and
I'm a
and I
man.
also
Thank you.
that's it. And I also understand that I lack some of the feminine energy on some sides too, you
Mm,
see? So I try to look into that also.
mm,
Why? It helps my relationship with my children, with my wife. If I go around, kicking the door in all the time and slamming dishes and shit, like, and I might not think there's nothing wrong with that because I'm a man. Hey, what's the big thing?
right,
That's not in harmony. That's not in
right,
harmony with your environment. Mm-mm.
right.
No.
And I'm glad you said that too, because even having that self-awareness to realize as a man, and to realize, okay, how my actions, behavior, and just how I'm moving through this realm, but how it impacts the people in my environment,
Mhm,
my woman and my children, you know?
mhm, mhm.
That's another level of mastery right there.
That's right. That's right.
And it's an
Yeah.
everyday lesson, right?
It's everyday lesson, brother. Yeah. It levels to it. There
There's
really
levels.
is. There's levels to it, especially when you throw some kids in the mix. It's it,
Right.
it's something else. It's really something else. But
Mm,
then when you look at your mind, you look at why you're here, and that scares people because they'd be like, "Oh man, I contemplate my existence.
mm,
Oh man, like what? Oh, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. Yeah, yeah, it is scary, but
mhm,
the only way out of those places that you don't want to be, like when you're unhappy and you're depressed, there's no fulfillment in your life, or the only way is to go inward. That's it. you
mhm.
know and if you could find it in other things, man, I'm not knocking nobody. There's no dogma here, nothing, and we're not
Right,
bashing number none like that. If you could
right. It's
find
not
it,
like that.
then go ahead. Like, somebody might be listening and be like, oh well, I find it in beep.
Right.
then go ahead, then
Go
sister,
ahead.
brother. that sounds okay too. If you could find it in those things, that's great. In
Right.
fact, hit me up. Let me know what is it that you find in it that helping you out.
Right, right, right. Right.
Yeah, to talk about it or enlighten me.
Hmm.
Mm,
And another thing I would throw in there is, you hear in the old warrior text, they talk about constantly contemplating death.
mm, mm,
And death is a scary subject for a lot of people for obvious reasons. But
mm,
I think it's one of the, it's
mm,
like that's the one place we're all going to go one day.
mhm,
And we all
mhm,
have to face our mortality. And so, what does that mean? What type of life do you want to leave behind? Because nobody knows when they're going to go. So,
mhm.
my opinion is we should live like every day is that last day,
Thank
you
you.
know? And it
Thank you.
doesn't, it shouldn't be a somber type of thing, because once you're gone, then everybody else got to work. Everybody else is doing the
Yeah,
grieving. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
right,
you
yeah,
might
yeah.
be grieving, but you might see that light and be, oh shoot, oh grandma, oh yeah,
Right,
oh, there's
right,
a party over here, and you're not even thinking about like,
right.
you know. So
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. Yeah.
right, but it's like we have to have. I believe we have to have a healthy relationship with our mortality. That's
Mm,
what I
yeah,
believe.
mm. Yes, I believe so too. I believe that we should try at least because, I'm sure you, like myself, you meet lots of people, they're not even trying. I'm like, come on,
Mhm.
bro. You're not even. I talked with this brother, was it Saturday, and he was telling me some things, and I was like, okay, um, do any yoga? No. Okay, okay. How about some journaling? Do you journal? Get your thoughts? No, no, I don't. Okay, all right. Do you go to gym or do you like run or something like that? No. I'm like, bro, you're three out of three now. And I hit him
Mhm.
with a fourth one too, and he was like, no. I was like, you see, you need to start doing some of these things. Find out who you are inside, man. Challenge yourself, bro. Get out of your
Mhm.
comfort zone. I said, if not, we're gonna have the same discussion again in 6 months, in a year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, like that.
Right.
You know, we have to get uncomfortable. That's the only way. We're too comfortable. This society, look around you. Look
Mhm.
around. Everything's of comfort. Every new thing that they come out with, right? They came out with the remote control. They're like, man, you ever
That
see it?
that was
Man, it's just
that
like
was
people
big.
sit on the sofa and they don't find the remote. They be like, I'm just gonna sit here and just watch whatever's on. I'm not gonna get up and change the channel because I
Well,
can't find the remote.
so let me, because back in the day you could go and do that. Now you can't even use the TV without the remote. If it's on and you can't change the channel, ain't nothing going
Right.
on.
I know on the smart TVs. I know I was touching on the edges, like, where's the channel?
Yo,
You
YouTube,
oh
I'm
man,
like,
right.
where's this
We
thing?
need
Like
the remote. You need
those
the yeah,
Mission Impossible, like
yeah.
where's the buttons?
Talk about mysteries of Egypt, man. I'm
Oh
trying to
my
find the,
gosh.
the channel button on the
It's just the
smart TV.
I just where's the channel button? Where's the volume button? Where's the on and off button? Just
Yeah, we're just too comfortable, man.
yeah.
Everything that comes on now, bro, is like the light, the lamp. You don't even walk to the lamp. You get the remote for the lamp. It's just go turn on the light.
Just
It's way out,
you
way
watch,
out.
you see
Yeah,
that? You see
the new. Yeah,
that? Just
yeah,
like that, bro. It-
yeah.
and things are hooked up to the internet now.
Mm,
And this, I guess, is something that's worth speaking about, the internet of things,
mm, mm, mm,
because there's two schools of thought with that. There's people who don't know, great, I have my smart car, great, I got my smart refrigerator, my smart blender.
mm,
But the flip side is the amount of electro smog bouncing around people's homes
mm,
right now,
mm,
homes and apartments, is insane.
mm.
And there's certain things I would recommend for people. One is not having a router in your bedroom or near where
Oh yeah.
people are going to sleep.
No way,
People are,
no way.
people are
No
bent out of shape.
phone, don't yeah, don't even no TV in the bedroom, man. The
No
bedroom's
TV in the bed,
sacred.
no, right? No TV in the
No
bedroom,
phone.
right? Like, look, people are worried about 5G, and there's rightfully so, because there's some stuff coming down the line with that 5G, 6G. But
Yep.
what about Wi-Fi? And this is a true
Mm,
fact. Folks can look this up.
mm,
Wi-Fi in the home right now. Let's say, an individual has a daughter, right? daughter's 5 years old, 2 years old, whatever,
Mm.
it's not gonna be her children, but her grandchildren are gonna be impacted, genetically impacted by the Wi-Fi that she's exposed to now.
Mm. Mm.
That's what's going on right now in the realm of Wi-Fi.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that,
girls are born with all the ovaries that they're ever gonna have,
right.
and those
Right.
that means they're, like
Right.
your wife, she was
Mm.
there when her mother was a child, when her grandmother was a child. Like, then this is again, this goes back to the ancient science, but it's so simple. Like, the ancients understood this continuity of life and how we are, every experience that a woman has before she gives birth to her daughter is encoded in that daughter.
Right.
Right, the son
Right.
too, because
Right.
we are the fruit of our parents,
Right.
their
Right.
loins and their wombs. So the
Mm.
experiences that our parents had, we are physically there when they're having it. And once we are born, especially when the mother gives birth to the child,
Mm.
then now the child is having their own experiences. But up until
Mm.
that point of birth, when they're out of the womb, they are experiencing everything that their parent experienced. They had
Mm.
experienced everything that their grandparent and their great grandparent. This is how
Right.
we talked about genetic memory the other day, bro.
Right. Right.
This thing
Right.
gets deep, but it's
It
real.
is
This
deep.
is real
It's real.
science.
It is. My wife just recently was learning that um this technology, this ancient technology of this wireless energy, just like the pyramids were and all type of things,
Mhm.
um, they're trying their best to duplicate that now with all of the repeaters, right?
Mm,
Because she was learning that you don't if you have Wi-Fi energy going across, you don't need repeaters. You don't need it. You don't need it. But the reason why they have is because it's not real. They're trying to get that and bringing that energy through the ether. So they
mm,
have to get another repeat. That's why you see all the towers
mm.
all around the place. Towers everywhere. You don't need towers on every building around here, bro.
You
You
just
see how
pulled
they
the skirt up on them, brother.
yeah, yep,
I hope
yep.
that the people are gonna listen to that. I hope that doesn't go over people's heads, because it's gonna go over some people's heads.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
other people are gonna be like, "What did you just say? What did you
Yep,
just say, brother?
yep.
What did you just say, brother
Mhm.
Omar?
The repeaters. Yeah,
Please
these
repeat
towers.
what you
You don't
said."
need towers. You don't need the towers all over on every single building. You don't need that. They're trying to repeat that energy, to to continue that Wi-Fi, and it's harmful. They know it already. They got guys going up in these special suits working with those things. Yeah, they
Right.
know it already. It's harmful to humans, bro. That's why
Mm,
yeah, you should lower that on your cell phone too. Go to 4G instead of the 5 one,
right.
and then try to stay away from it. Try not to keep it on your body. Definitely don't want to use the phone to your head. No, please. I don't want to turn this into like a health show, bro, but come on, these are the tips, ladies and gentlemen. Pay attention. Don't put that phone to your head. Nah, I always use the earpiece and
Right.
not the wireless one.
Right.
No.
Because that's like having two phones. I mean, you
Ah,
remember the Bluetooth, when the Bluetooth came out? That was such a bad idea, and we learned it was a bad idea. You still
yeah,
see the OGs with the Bluetooth, and it's like, oh, brother, I don't know if you should be
yeah,
doing that. But
yeah,
then
yeah.
now we got two Bluetooths.
Bluetooth. Or you get the guy with the cell phone that he puts it in his shirt pocket right
Oh
next to
my
his
gosh.
heart. Come on, family. Come on.
That's
I'm just saying, really.
And you know what, brother? But I think it's important to talk about these things, because this is within our knowledge base. These are things that we know about. These are things that we deal with all day. Like, I deal with people who are stressed out all day. It's tough for me to tell my clients, hey, you know what? You shouldn't have those two ear pods in your ear.
I know. I know.
But the conversations will come eventually, because I have people who are grinding their teeth and clenching their jaws all the time. Well, your brain is being
Right.
squeezed, is being, you know what
Right.
I'm saying, being
Right.
mashed
Yeah.
between energy waves. You don't think that's contributing a
Yeah.
little bit?
Yeah. 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 Another one is like, try to get away. I try to occasionally, I go away for a couple of days, quiet,
Mm,
silence, meditate, pray, write. turn the phone off, and I try, try, try,
Mm,
try to do it. You'll be, in my opinion, you'll be less stress, less stressed, because
yes,
we create stress. We create it. Stress doesn't exist,
right.
right? I had one of my teachers say, if I gave you a jar and said, go fill it up with stress, people will
Mm,
come back with the jar empty, right?
right,
Because we're
right.
creating it. It's all in our mind, right? Between our ears, right there in the temple, in our temple, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Of
Um,
course. We're having a nice plunge on Saturday.
mm,
And I meant to create that in the beginning to let people know. But if you stood to the end right here, man, if you could come in and um, if you could just tell me Kemet, that's it. You come in for free. I'll take care of you.
oh
You do the breath
wow.
work, do the ice plunge. We'll get the baked goods for you, all the swag bag and the everything. Yeah, just come through. If you could tell me that, you're in. Don't worry about it. I got you. No,
Oh, that's big right there, brother.
thank you.
All they gotta do is tell you Kemet, and they get to
That's it.
come to this event at the
It's a secret
Omziel
thing.
Healing Sanctuary for free on Saturday.
That's right, in North Bergen, New Jersey. That's right.
Oh
We
man.
serving snacks and all kind of good things that are going on. Tons of education to learn how you can start treating your temple. This Ferrari that we're in, every day. The breath work alone, and then the cold plunge.
Mm,
Powerful, powerful, powerful tools, man. There's even in ancient Kemet, there's scriptures too that speak about how that they would even their babies, they would put them in the cold river in the Nile right there, bro, to
really?
strengthen. Yeah, this is what I've read,
Mm,
to strengthen their immune system, bro. So this is not a new thing, bro. This is old. So anybody who say, "Oh, you're doing this guy, the Jim Smith," no,
right.
Jim Smith, invented.
Well,
This is
you
ancient.
you see the Russians doing that with their babies, dipping
Yep.
them in the
Mhm.
cold water. Russian, I
Right.
think Ukrainians do the same thing, dip the
Yeah.
babies in the cold water. I heard they leave them out in the cold sometimes.
Yep.
And
Overnight,
Rush,
and that's
mhm.
right. Yeah. Over here, they call BCW, right,
Oh,
or
right,
whatever
immediately,
agency
right.
they.
DIFUS,
Yeah.
ACS, right.
ACS, right?
Right.
The indigenous people of this land too. Same thing. Put their babies in the river water.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's like unheard of. Like what? What do you? It strengthens your immune system.
Well,
You
I
know?
mean, you see Russians, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a strong people.
Man, I saw this one in Russia. Someone, he knows I'm into it, so he sent me this one clip, and it was just insane, man. What this guy was doing. They cut into the into the water there, into the river, like it was solid. They had to make a big cut, and then they had to put on these huge gloves, huge, like because their extremities. That's the
Mhm.
first thing that goes on you. Put these
Right.
gloves on, and then you go on this ladder. You go down like that, and it was already like 20 below, and the wind was whipping, and then the guy was like, "Yeah, I do this every day, every day."
Cuts it every day?
No, well, you cut it once, and then they just break the top, but the rest is all solid.
That
Yeah, but come through, family. This is
mm,
you learn about your mind. Come to the Omziel Healing Sanctuary. We'll help you out. We'll show you what it's all about, man. You get to see who you are, what's going on inside your mind, and how
mm,
you can correct some of those things. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's difficult. Yeah, it's challenging. Yes, it sucks. All of that. Yeah, of course it does. But that's the only way you learn. We're not learning from comfort. We learn nothing from comfort.
mm,
You're comfortable. What do you learn? That you like to sit on that soft cushion.
right. You learn the comfortable stuff.
You learn the comfortable. That's it. That you like that cushion and that pillow
Right.
and the cover. That's it. That's it. But you want to expand your mind, expand your consciousness. Oh no, this is different. Push yourself. Go for a run. Run farther. Run in the cold. Run when it rains. Go to
Mm,
the gym. Go to the gym twice a day. Go 5 days straight. Do it straight for 6 months. No matter what. No matter what. No matter what. Mark your calendar every day. You see, yeah, like that. Learn about yourself.
mm,
Yeah, push your body, man.
mm. That's powerful medicine right there, brother.
I hope, brother. Let's leave it at that. What do you say?
Yeah. Sounds
Okay.
like a good place. Omziel Healing Sanctuary on Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. Get in contact with Brother Omar. Come through, say the magic word, Kemet, and gain free entrance to this event, this magical event.
We start at 11 a.m., but you could show up a little earlier if you like, get your spot, relax in, acclimate and all that. And we have a great time, man. It's a great, great time. The whole session lasts about 2 hours. So we start at 11, and we're done in 2 hours. People integrate what came up, and it's a great thing, man. Once you experience it, you already know. You could do it. People listening, they'll be like, "Oh, I don't know if I could do that." You can.
Right.
Trust. You can.
You
can
know
do
what?
it.
At the Health Expo, I saw waves of people doing it, and I
Yeah.
was so impressed by everyone who did it.
Yep.
I was so impressed.
We're going back to Nicholas, Brooklyn very soon, working out the details with Monique. And, yeah. Huge shout out to Monique and Nicholas, Brooklyn out there. The institution been there for more than 50 years.
Yeah.
Educating people, having workshops and all that, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being there. Appreciate you. So that'll be it.
All right.
That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, is the Clarity Code, Brother Omar and Brother Camron. On the Wake Up Radio Network. Big shout out to super producer Cindy Ashby. Big shout out to Omziel Healing Sanctuary. Big shout out to Armu. Tune in again next week.
That's right. I hope. Peace and love, people. Peace.